As I shared earlier in the service, this should have been one of those spiritual practices that the sermon just flowed this week. After all, we talk about joy, lots and lots of joy in the Bible from beginning to end. We talk about joy being the essence of who we are as people of faith. But yet, when I sat down to write this sermon, I realized I was not in a joyful or joy-filled place. Maybe it was the colder temperatures this past week. When the cold starts happening, that's my body's automatic response, is to start hibernating, to curl up into a dark place. Or maybe I will say that I'm feeling the weight of everyone's grief at this moment. We talked at our elders meeting on Monday night that it just seems like our community of faith, all of us are dealing with some big life stuff right now. Or maybe my struggle with writing this sermon was because it was the Spirit's way of reminding us that joy is not always about smiles and celebrations. It's not always about us always grinning and bearing it until we make it, that fake it until you make it attitude. Maybe it was the Spirit's way of reminding us that joy meets us in the sorrow like a light shining in the darkness, that sometimes joy meets us in our grief and our tears and our laughter become so intermingled that they become one. Maybe my struggle in writing this sermon was the Spirit's way of reminding us that our faith tells us that it's not either or, but rather both and. Oftentimes, it is both and feeling those emotions at the same time. And here's why I say that. Oftentimes, we assume that joy, as I said, is about happiness, and that we can only express joy in our lives, joy to everyone, when everything is going well, when everything is going right in our worlds. Oftentimes, we think that joy cannot be found if we are going through something serious like an illness or grief or struggling to adapt to change that is happening all around us. We often assume that during times of great sorrow, times of loss, that knowing things are not quite right, when we think that this thing called joy is so elusive, that it can't be ours until we get better, until everything is fixed, whatever that means. We tend to think that joy cannot be ours until we are on some stable foundation again. Or, on the other hand, we often go to the other extreme and feel guilty when we are experiencing joy while others are having so much sorrow in their lives. We feel guilt because we think we're not honoring what happened, the seriousness of the event. We're not respecting the seriousness of the illness. We're not understanding why this person is struggling to accept change. And we start thinking that there's got to be something wrong with us because other people seem to get it. We feel this tremendous guilt that is associated for us finding joy when others are experiencing sorrow. Yet again, I need you to hear me say that our faith often reminds us, that our faith teaches us that it's never an either-or option, that it is a both and both things, joy and sorrow, can be true at the same time. We can experience them in the same moment, in the same minute, and it can still be true. We can have joy in the midst of our sorrow. You see, there's so much that is worthy of lament and rage. Joy doesn't preclude these emotional habits. It invites them. Joy situates every emotion within itself. It grounds them so that one is not overindulged the other while others lie starving. Joy does not replace the emotions. It holds them all together. It keeps them as one. And society has failed to understand this. Society tells us to find joy in suffering is wrong. Yet our faith tells us that joy tells us that it is space for grace to come in and let your sorrow be held, to rest safely here in the arms of our God. This is the joy that Cole Arthur Riley describes in her book. This is the joy that people experienced as they watched the temple being laid and put together, a reconstruction of their dreams, a mourning of what was, and a celebration of what to be. This is the joy that Paul talks about in the Philippians when he tells them to rejoice and be glad always. This is the joy we sing about. This is the joy we pray about. This is the joy we celebrate as people of faith, because this joy that resides deep in our hearts and will never go away. This joy is grounded in the deep knowledge that we know God is at work in this world and that love and light will always have the last word. Our faith teaches us, our faith reminds us that joy comes to us in all things and through all things, because joy is not a passive thing. It's not a fickle emotion. It's not here one moment and gone the next. Rather, our joy that sustains us, the joy that strengthens us, the joy that shines like a light in the darkness, the joy that brings us peace, the joy that shows us God's grace, the joy that brings belonging and is grounded in the deep knowledge of who we are and whose we are. It is the joy we celebrate every single day when we remember we are beloved children of God, made in the image of our Creator and loved more than we will ever know. How can we not sing at that good news? That is why, for our spiritual practice, we're going to sing this morning, and I can just sense the fear of dread all through you right now. So I'll go easy on you, and we'll switch that and say, we're going to do some gratitude journaling. Interesting enough, Brené Brown found when she was doing her research that she discovered that the relationship between joy and gratitude is one of the most important things she found. She always assumed that people who were joyful would lead to gratitude. But she said, honestly, it's the other way around. We start with gratitude, and that brings us joy. She said, if you are joyful, you should be, instead of practicing gratitude, invites joy to our lives. Or Paul puts it this way in our reading this morning. From now on, brothers and sisters, if anything is excellent, if anything is admirable, focus your thoughts on these things. All that is true, all that is holy, all that is just, all that is pure, all that is lovely, all that is worthy of praise. Practice these things. Whatever you've learned, received, heard, or saw in us, and the peace of God will be with you. So I want us to practice a little gratitude this morning. Use your bulletin, use a scrap piece of paper, whatever you have. And I want you to write down 3 things that you are grateful for in this moment. They can be large, they can be small. They can be what you would say insignificant, but they bring you gratitude. Take a few moments and simply write down 3 things you are grateful for in this moment. I hope this writing of 3 things is not hard for you. I hope that you can find 3 things that you are grateful for in your life. It is my hope that we incorporate this sense of gratitude, this writing our gratitude journal into our daily devotions. May this opportunity for gratitude open our eyes to the many ways that God continues to be at work in our world. May this attitude of gratitude bring us hope and grace. May it shine like a light in the darkness. And may it always, always help us to remember that it's not joy that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us joyful. And a reminder that in all things, joy will find us like the light finds us in the morning. May it be so. Amen.